Hard and fast. Doc, we're going to start things off this week with a little bit of Kiwis after they went down 14-8 to the Kangaroos in the Four Nations. My question for you would be, can we beat them?
We can. We definitely can. Cool. We'll go back to Perth where the Kiwis 4-pack were just steamrolled.
I remember that one, yes.
And then on Sunday morning in England against the Kangaroos, we had Jared Beryl playing on the wing.
Yeah, he's not my favourite player.
Yeah, we had Greg Eastwood starting at prop and only taking like 2 runs before he was dragged off the field. So I don't think we've seen a complete Kiwis performance against the Kangaroos. And I think the optimist in me believes they are building towards that. They're not fizzing away now. Yeah. They're just letting things simmer, and then they're going to save themselves for the final. Risk is they might not make the final. But assuming they do make the final.
I think they're there now, aren't they?
Just got to beat Scotland.
Yeah. Yeah, it's easier said than done, or maybe...
I know, Lachlan Coote, Danny Brow pulling the strings.
Ewan Aitken.
Right.
He's a good one. How'd you fancy old Sean Johnson there? I didn't feel like he did a whole lot for roughly 70 minutes there. I think pretty comfortably overshadowed by a certain Mr. Thurston controlling the game off his boot. But then just when it really mattered, little chip and chase over the top, oh mate, doing that stuff that we know Sean Johnson can do. And then he almost won that game at the end, didn't he? Got over the try line but held up.
He did indeed, but I think, once again, it's all about the forwards.
Yeah.
Sean Johnson looks magical. He looks amazing when the Kiwis 4-packs roll in forward, quick play the balls and so on, as I've told you before.
Mm-hmm.
When the Kiwis 4-pack isn't doing so well, then Johnson's putting up bombs from 40 metres out, and it looks a bit ho-hum.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't have minded him putting up a bomb from 10 metres out on that last play, but of course he had to play the ball. I noticed Darius Boyd made the tackle to hold him up on one side of the field, and then as they spread it the other way, it was Darius Boyd who knocked the ball out of bounds or tackled someone or however it was to end the game as well on the opposite side.
Darius Boyd.
Very typical Darius Boyd being just an outstanding defensive fullback.
Interesting note, wildcard.
Yes?
The only 2 kickers for the Kangaroos, Jonathan Thurston and Cameron Smith. Tells you all you need to know about Jonathan Thurston and Cameron Smith.
And maybe a little bit of Michael Morgan.
Well,
he does what he had to. He did what he had to do, you know.
Yeah, he doesn't need to do a whole lot when he's playing besides Thurston wildcard. We also Kiwis are struggling to beat Australia.
Yeah.
But we got the Wellington Phoenix grabbing their first win.
Oh yeah.
Happy days there. What'd you make of the Phoenix? Roy Krishna 2 goals. Costa, Roy up front doing the business, speed, just taking the defenders on. What do you reckon?
Yeah, mate, Costa setting up both of those goals as well. I mean, that's what we wanted to see, right? We wanted to see Costa and Krishna combining together, just unleashing all that incredible pace and skill that they've got. Neither of them are the best, most clinical finishers, but look, you make enough chances, you'll have enough shots, you'll score enough goals, right? And they did that against Newcastle. I think the one little side note of asterisk that we maybe got to put on that is that Newcastle weren't that good.
No.
They were a team that obviously liked to dive in, and Bogard especially made a couple crunching tackles. He also sort of almost gave away a penalty. It's a good positive result. That's the most important thing, is that the Phoenix snapped an 8-game losing streak, an 18-game streak going way back into last season without a clean sheet. Those are the important things. We can worry about how good the opposition were and the fact that they were playing in Wellington, a little bit colder, you know what I mean? We can worry about that at another time. The fact is they desperately needed a win, and they got one.
It was a bit sketchy there for the opening exchanges. Dominate possession, lots of fancy passing, lots of fancy touches, and you just thought, we've seen this from the Knicks before.
They're not going to score,
They're not going to score, no.
But they did.
They did. Roy, Costa, I love what him and Roy do, just taking defenders on.
Yeah, I think you made that point earlier as well, and there's the same thing. Like, Costa had that right back for breakfast day. Like he skinned when he set up that it was the first goal, wasn't he? He just destroyed him. Yeah, mate, just a little drop of the shoulder or something. If he can do that, I mean, he's so good at that kind of thing. We just got to get him in enough space to be able to actually run at defenders. Got to get him on the ball with a little bit of speed, and that's where I think a guy like Guy Finkler, I thought he was fantastic in that game. The first time I felt that he wasn't anything other than a bit slow and a bit plodding.
2 very roided up hard and fast questions.
Absolutely.
What's happening in Rowley now? And do you love or hate Jacob Tratt?
I think I love to hate Jacob Tratt. He's getting increasingly good going forward. I know he'll try a few things and he'll do some dumb things, but I just don't trust him as a defensive fullback is the problem. And Newcastle did not threaten him at all. Melbourne victory did, and we lost 6-1. I don't know that and with Rolly, he'll play next week because all the All-Whites are gone.
Oh, good.
That's all right. He's having you back in the team straight away. I wish he'd scored. That's what you need. I don't know they've got much, but he's there.
He is.
Rolly to the rescue. Let's do some cricket now. There's a New Zealand A team.
There is a New Zealand A team wildcard.
There is, and my question for you, I know several of these names quite fellas that we've all been paying attention to for quite a while now, but I want you to specifically single out a few who are down the track, probably not this summer because we sort of have already seen which direction they're leaning in with the Black Cap selection, but through the future, through the next 12, 18 months, fellas who are going to be maybe 24 months, who are going to be cracking that side.
Well, you've got, and this is what's very exciting about this New Zealand A team, selections like Henry Nicholls, just normal. Yeah. There's normal selections for a New Zealand A team. Will Young, Barrett Popley, arguably the two best young batsmen in the country. And then we've got the seam attack, Jacob Duffy, Lockie Ferguson, Ed Nuttall, all seamers. So you got Duffy, right arm swing, you got Ed Nuttall, left arm swing, and Lockie Ferguson, arguably quickest bowler in Aotearoa. And then what was interesting for me as a Kiwi domestic cricket observer was seeing which direction the selectors want to go with the wicket keepers.
Right.
I love Tim Seifert. He's fantastic with Northern Districts, but they've gone Tom Blundell from Wellington. And this wild card raises an interesting conundrum because Tom Blundell, if Luke Ronke's playing for Wellington, Tom Blundell gives him the wicket-keeping gloves. If BJ Watling's playing for ND, Tim Seifert gives him the wicket-keeping gloves. So neither of those are keeping wicket in a full-strength team.
Right. Well, What if Luke Ronke was playing for Wellington, but Blundell was playing for the New Zealand? Would that solve the conundrum?
That solves all the problems.
There we go. We just got to make that happen.
And Luke Ronke's just playing as batsman these days. So, what do you know?
For the Black Caps, he is, isn't he? Wow. Where are we going to next?
Chicago.
Oh, right, Chicago.
Supposedly
to talk about the All Black. No, mate, the Chicago Cubs.
Oh, crikey, Jack. Did someone go down in Chicago?
Something certainly went down. Had quite the week, didn't they? 108 years in between World Series victories. Commonly known as the longest drought in sports. Definitely in American sports. Mate, I can't even comprehend how long that is to go 108 years without a title. I mean, literally, maybe 3 people alive are Chicago Cubs fans who were there and just in consciousness, in existence at the point where they last won the World Series. None of them are going to remember it because who the hell's 120 and that's insane to me. It's been 71 years since they even made the World Series at all, and I don't know if they've made this official thing. I saw there was a little bit of a shout out at one point by the man himself, through, naturally not in his own voice, through a spokesperson, but I would really like to, on behalf of the Chicago Cubs, dedicate this one to the man Steve Bartman. He had a tough time of it the last sort of 15 years. Have you heard that tale?
Yeah, we know all of that through the ESPN 30 for 30s, don't we?
Yeah, Catching Hell it's called, the Steve Bartman one. You've honestly got to watch that. It's my favourite 30 for 30 for sure.
And he's all class. He didn't want to take any of the gloss or anything.
No one knows who he is. He's never been seen in public since then.
Why would you want to leave your room?
Well, I'll tell you why. Because he was offered $500,000 at one point to be in a Super Bowl ad, and he's like, no, I don't want to cash in on this at all. I'm a die-hard Cubs fan. This is the most devastating thing that could have happened to me. I don't want to profit in any way off of this thing, and he hasn't. And I've got so much respect for a dude who can do that.
I think this week's Niche Case Variety Show to make a shout out, Steve Bartman. He deserves it, mate. He deserves it.
Do the Bartman.
What I've been intrigued, just quickly, Wildcard, is how did the Chicago Cubs win? What is it about their team? What is it, any technical points as a baseball fan yourself? Because I've heard a lot historical and it's great, and we're in pretty weird times where teams are winning championships from nowhere. The Cronulla Sharks, you got the Chicago Cubs, everyone. But what is it about the Chicago? Yeah, what is it about the Cubs specifically that helped them win?
Well, I mean, if you're just looking at the roster that they've got, it's outstanding. It's the best one in baseball. You've got... most teams rely on one ace pitcher. These guys have got three.
Woo!
They've got Jake Arrieta, they've got John Lester, they've got Kyle Hendricks. All three of them were like borderline Cy Young quality at times. Kyle Hendricks is probably going to win that award. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think Jake Arrieta might have won it last year. They've got Aroldis Chapman in the bullpen, who is an asshole. Don't need to search his personal life too much because he's not a nice fellow, but he is the hardest throwing pitcher probably in the game. He regularly hurls 100 miles an hour. He can throw 100 miles an hour when he's tired. He's hitting like 102, 103. That's like mid 160s in terms of Ks per hour. So he's throwing them down faster than Shoaib Akhtar could on the cricket pitch. You've got this is the best thing about them is that they've got this great core of young players. That's the thing in American sports. You suck for a while, you don't have to worry about winning. You can start developing young players. They've done that, and they've finally started cashing in the last couple of years. Chris Bryant has fast become my favorite baseball player like on the planet. He's amazing. They've also got Anthony Rizzo, smacks him out of the park. Addison Russell, Javier Baez, fellas like this. You've got a nice little balance of veteran talent in there because of course you need a bit of that. Not disregarding, of course, Ben Zobrist, the MVP, who's the ideal utility fella. You've also got Joe Maddon's management, but the fella that really ties it all together is Theo Epstein, who was the general manager. He's the man who brought this team together. He's the man who got this core going. And he's also the man who, not only did he end this 180-year drought with the Cubs, he was also the GM for the Red Sox when they broke their 86-year drought. So that's quite a few numbers that go together for that fella.
Pretty handy CV if you ask me, Wildcard.
Not bad. I think he doesn't have to pay for too many drinks if he just cuts back and forth between Boston and Chicago.
The drought breaker.
The drought breaker. Theo Epstein, the drought breaker.
We are Razzlin and a Razzlin and a Dazzlin Wildcard. If you don't mind, I'll take centre stage.
You're more than welcome to it.
Alright, with Pakistan coming, play cricket against our Black Caps. They are playing New Zealand A, starting on Friday.
That's true.
And they are bringing with them Yazir Shah, leg spinner extraordinaire, and I'm going to drop some knowledge bombs about Yazir Shah because he is good. He goes alright.
He certainly does.
19 games going back to the 22nd of October 2014 against Australia. He has played 13 games in which he's taken at least 3 wickets. 13 straight games with 3 or more wickets, and that streak got broken in England in his 14th game. Into New Zealand, he is bringing 21 wickets in 3 tests against West Indies. Pretty handy if you ask me.
Not bad.
And those are in the United Arab Emirates favourable conditions for Yazir Shah. So a comparison, England conditions, more similar to Aotearoa. He took 4 tests, 19 wickets. And one of those games he took 10 wickets, and in the following test he took just the 1 wicket. If you're asking me, 19 wickets in 4 tests is pretty damn good. I'll be interested to see what Yazir Shah dishes up in Aotearoa Wildcard.
Yeah, well, we're not necessarily the best against spin now and then. Even our domestic fellas have been getting carved up by spin over the last sort of year and a half, haven't they? My razzle dazzle. I'm going to throw this one over to America, where a fella by the name of Kevin Durant. Now, Kevin Durant obviously signed with the Golden State Warriors, pissed off a fair amount of people, particularly in New Zealand, as well as a place called Oklahoma City, where he used to play, which is obviously, a lot of New Zealanders now support Oklahoma City Thunder, as they probably should, with old Stevie, Kiwi Steve over there. So Kevin Durant kind of became public enemy number 1 when that happened. And just recently, he went and played the first time up against his old fellas, his old Thunder buddies. So naturally, a lot of people were expecting a big revenge game from Russell Westbrook, and he certainly, even though both of them have been shined down, playing down the stuff in the media, Russell Westbrook then turns up with an official photographer's vest, clearly a little bit of a dig at KD, who's a bit of an amateur photographer himself. Was at the last Super Bowl taking snaps. I would say it's probably a fair thing to suggest that Russell Westbrook had the neutrals vote in his direction, but they were discounting just how good Kevin Durant is. He went out there, he dropped 39 points in an absolute demolition, 7 3-pointers, shot 15 of 24 from the field. He was outstanding, just as indeed he has been all season. 30 points per game, shooting 59% from the field, averaging 8 boards, averaging 3 assists. absolutely magnificent. But it's not just that. He's also now gone 70 consecutive games with at least 20 points. That's since the ABA-NBA merger back in the late 70s. The only person who's beaten that streak is a guy by the name of Michael Jordan. You may or may not have heard of him. He was actually in this movie called Space Jam, which I think is how he got famous. Yeah, a bit of an actor. Yeah, he had 72, so Kevin Durant's going to beat that this week, probably. Woo. He's on fire. Absolutely on fire.
Wildcard, we are kicking back being cool in the lounge, and if you don't mind, I'll just do a reading for the people from the Bible. This is coming from Vince Staples, the song 3230-3230 off the Summertime 06 album. Both big fans of that.
Love that one.
Hitting corners, thugging with the blower, barrel louder than a motor. Keep the engine running, case a brother run up on ya. Another day in southern Nevada. Another day in sunny California.
That's the one.
Feds taking pictures and tapping Motorola's. Everybody's snitching. Gotta live with paranoia. A soldier since the stroller. Ask mama if you doubt that. Homie, where your clout at? You ain't never put nobody's scalp back.
Fine words. Words to live by.
Words to live by indeed. Just watch your scalps. Don't put your scalps back. Probably a crime in most countries.
Yeah, well, I think that might be illegal. Yeah.
This is not a life advice section.
No, it's a lounging section. So we're going to run through what we've been reading, watching and listening to over the past, however long we choose to reach back into the past. Where do we begin?
Well, Wildcard, I have been watching Ben Ryan, Fijian Sevens coach, led them to gold medal in Rio.
He did.
He did a little interview, little podcast, video cast with the Huffington Post.
Really?
And it was absolutely phenomenal listening to how he integrated with the Fijian culture, how he then added his own little spice to the Fijian Sevens team, and just hearing morals and values and just foundation elements of the Fijian Sevens team. And I would recommend anyone out there watch it. Huffington Post, YouTube, Ben Ryan, Fijian Sevens, absolute gems, knowledge bombs all over the show.
Over or under set at, let's say, 3, where were the mentions of Kava at?
Minimal.
Under. So, under.
Definitely
probably
under.
Just keeping it polite for the Huffington Post because, you know, they're the half. I watched the movie Sicario on the weekend. Good. I quite enjoyed it. Came out about a year ago. Got fairly good ratings, which is how I knew about it. Heard some good stuff about it through the grapevine. Had it recommended a couple times. Emily Blunt is in it. Josh Brolin, Benicio del Toro, who's absolutely outstanding in it. Directed by a fellow called Denis Villeneuve, who I've never seen a movie of before, but did quite enjoy this one. As I say, quite dark, quite amoral, quite suspenseful. Tells the story of a U.S. intelligence team hunting a few Mexican banditos, a few what do they call them? The cartel leaders down at the border of USA, Mexico, and shady doings are afoot. It's a good one. It's a good one.
Vatos Locos. I have been listening to Anthony Bourdain, the old NPR podcast. Anthony Bourdain was a guest, and those who don't know, Anthony Bourdain is a chef, writes a book, does a show on CNN where he goes abroad, strange places, and eats food. And the one thing that I stick with, I just sticks in my mind a bit of information from Anthony Bourdain.
Right up in there.
Is when you go somewhere, just eat their food. You cannot say no when someone offers you food because it's just general disrespect.
Well, it's a great way to experience the world as well as through their cuisine. I like that. That's a great bit of advice.
There's nothing better than food.
No, well, there you go. It's what brings us all together. I can tell you that I have been listening to, this is a good one here, the peculiar vocal stylings of the Channel 9 cricket commentary team. Must be another summer, featuring such classic hits, such classic tracks as Moaning About the DRS whenever it goes against Australia. Shane Warne's Uncontrollable Ego, that's a good one. Don't forget Michael Slater's Dumb Laugh. There's the typically average classic catches featuring commentators that are currently in this commentary box talking about them. And now, coming in fresh this season, bonus track, added Kevin Peterson's misleading accent. Whew. The radio always goes good with the cricket, you know?
It does
always
indeed.
goes good.
Or you just mute it, play some music. Have it on the background.
Also goes fine.
Been reading, courtesy of SportsIllustrated.com. Might be up your alley. Jared Goff. He was drafted by the LA Rams.
Hasn't played yet?
Hasn't played. And I was reading about how the little strategy behind him not playing.
They'd rather lose with Case Keenum because he's awful.
But he's getting time to learn, and you know, I just like the patience and the foresight of allowing a young quarterback to really learn the system, get acquainted with NFL footy. Apparently, he was playing in a different kind of scheme.
Not the most pro-ready kind of.
Yeah, so just giving him time and not rushing him back in, even though they aren't traveling so well.
Yeah, I think that's a bit of a lost start, is giving them, sort of, especially when you're a top 1 or 2 pick. I think he went second. I can't really. No, I think he was first overall.
He might have been first. Yeah.
And Carson Wentz went second. Yeah, and you sort of got that expectation to then be Andrew Luck, to be Peyton Manning, and it's not really something that's all that realistic. Some people just need a few years to adjust to the climate and all that stuff. Sometimes it just takes a while. What I have been reading, the other day I happened to be cruising through the Yale Book Fair and I stumbled upon a copy of Don DeLillo's Underworld, which is about 800, 900 pages long. I've read it before, I've actually got a copy myself, but I quite liked this one that I saw because it had a different cover, so I bought it. I bought it even though I already owned this book and have already read it, and would have happily read it again with the one I already owned, but something about it, I just love that story. It sort of like crosses a few generations through New York. DeLillo, obviously one of the finest writers in the history of the written word. That guy is just outstanding. And what was weird about it, why I've singled this one out, is because I was then reading an article yesterday about on an Irish website talking about the rugby, as we probably shouldn't, because let's not. But they mentioned a quote from that book that I had just bought, having already owned it, and I thought that was kind of weird. And then also the fact is that book begins with a 150-page intro all about Bobby Thompson's shot heard around the world, which is one of the most famous moments in baseball history. And it came a day after I'd just witnessed one of the new most famous moments in baseball history, which was the Chicago Cubs winning the World Series.
Weird, bro.
It just all ties in together, eh?
Do you want to go warm down, or...?
Yeah, I've got this little kink in my back, to be honest. I don't really want to overstretch it, so I think I maybe got to hit that massage table.
Maybe hot and colds.
Bit of hot and colds, yeah. Don't be like Steven Adams, he dropped his phone in it. Oh, lucky for the bugger, he got a big paycheck so he could afford a new one.
What a dick.
Sometimes things just work out, eh?